Welcome to another episode of Baz Codes. For those new to the channel, I'm your host, Baz. It's right there in the name. I'm a software engineer working in many programming languages and environments. And about a year ago, I wanted to get proficient with C++, and so set myself to a project. Now, I've got a lot of experience with JavaScript and PHP and, done some stuff in Go. But C++ had, of course, gotten very popular in the 90s, and then I went off and did internet stuff for a long time. When I came back, I realized I hadn't really done any C++ stuff in a long time. And, of course, C was one of the first programming languages I got really good at. C++ was a kind of a whole new world, and it's evolved a tremendous amount. So I wanted to brush up on my skills. So the task I set myself to was to write an Apple II emulator. My first computer in the 80s was an Apple IIe, and I had always wanted to do an Apple II emulator, and so I said, what the heck, let's do it. So my goal is to emulate an Apple II, II Plus, IIe, and ultimately 2GS, the 16-bit-ish Apple II series computer, and to do so on Mac, Windows, and Linux, to have it be cross-platform. So far, I'm up to the Apple IIe level, so I've kind of gotten to, enhanced Apple IIe, like 84-ish in terms of the hardware support. And the system, I think, is working quite well at this point. And releases are available periodically for all three platforms out on my GitHub. And I'll put the link to that in the description. I haven't updated you all on my GSSquared work in a while. It's been like a month, 5-6 weeks, something like that. Mainly because, like a good programmer, I went in and rewrote a bunch of the internals again. Yeah. If you gotta, you gotta. Part of this was to properly implement some things that weren't quite 100% before. And some of it was to start getting prepared for Apple IIGS emulation, which is coming down the road. It really is. I know you don't believe me, but it's coming. So the main areas of work here in the past bit have been 100% fully accurate, cycle-accurate video, and I'll explain that here in a bit. Greatly improved Mockingboard sound card emulation and sound quality generally, and better handling of accelerated CPU modes. Now, before I dive in, and you're all excited, and I know you want to see what happens next, but take a second, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button if you want to see more stuff like this. Even if you don't, just you got to feed the algorithm or it's going to get bored and show you, stuff that you don't want to see. You do want to see this. Okay, moving on. Yes, I'm reading notes. So I did a video in August about pulling in new code to support cycle accurate video. And that code was originally provided by a contributor, and that's exciting to have a project to the point where other people are excited about it and want to help. And if any of you are interested in that, just drop me a line on the old GitHub and let's get working together. But what I mean by cycle accurate video, what I mean by this term, is that the video display in GS2, the emulator, is synchronized to the CPU emulation in exactly the same way it would be in a real Apple II. And there's some programs out there that very carefully count CPU cycles, so they've got instructions and they know how many CPU cycles each instruction takes, and so they can write to video memory and they can change video modes and know exactly where the monitor's electron beam is on the display at that moment. And people used this technique to pull off some really impressive effects by changing video modes on the fly, like splitting a screen between text, low resolution, and high resolution graphics modes, or even switching between modes on the inside the same line, like as the beam's going across one scan line of the monitor, they're changing video modes. I'll show you an example of this later. Now, down in the lower left-hand corner of the emulator display here are these figures. And these are CPU cycles per second that I'm measuring. All right, I got instrumentation inside the code. We're measuring how many emulated CPU cycles we're executing. And we're also measuring how many frames per second of video. How many times I'm updating the video display. Now, unlike modern computers, the Apple II did not have a 60 frame per second update. The NTSC video standard, it was actually like 59.94 or something, and the Apple II implemented something that was really close to that, but it was 59.9227. Now, you may be asking, well, isn't 60 frames close enough for your emulator? And the answer is no, it's not. Close, but no cigar. It's not, and this tiny little difference, it seems like a tiny little difference, makes all the difference. Previous versions of GSSquared actually did 60, and it made it impossible to get the cycle accurate video working correctly. So on an Apple II, there are precisely, I mean exactly, 17,030 CPU cycles per video frame. And there are exactly 1,020,484 cycles per second. That figure comes from here. Forgive my math. This figure is not quite close enough. 1020483. That's this number right here. 1020484 is actually what we aim for. In the display here, it's actually rounded up a bit. I should, print out a little bit more, a few more decimal places, and you'd see it. But these figures are all directly tied together, right? The number of cycles per second is frames per second times cycles per frame. And it has to be exactly this way, because if you've got a piece of software that's counting cycles like this, like literally like, this loop took 100 cycles and this bit of code took, 500 cycles. And it wants to do the same thing again, right? At the exact same time on the next frame, it's got to count exactly 17,030 cycles. So in a real computer, that's no big deal. That's just how it is. In an emulator, you've got to emulate all of these interrelations. And it's taken a bit of doing, but I've got it. And this is some of that Steve Wozniak magic at work. Like, why didn't he just do, separate clock speeds for this and that? It was all about saving chips and saving design complexity and saving money in the manufacture. The Apple IIs, the Apple IIe ultimately was an incredibly profitable machine because they kept every iteration from 2 to 2 plus to 2e. They'd reduce the chip count. And this was all, again, made possible by just clever design choices that Steve Wozniak made. So another area that got some work in GSSquared in the past month is in the Mockingboard support. The Mockingboard was an add-on sound card for Apple II computers that used chips that were actually common in some other computers of the time, and also, big stand-up console video games that you might find at arcades. And this really was a huge leap past the primitive audio support that's built into the Apple II. In the Apple II, built in, you get, basically you can make the speaker go up, you can make the speaker go down. It only has 1-bit resolution, basically up or down. Modern sound hardware, you can program, thousands of sound levels. So you can accurately reproduce pretty much any sound waveform you want. The Apple II speaker, not so much. So the Mockingboard was great. Quite a few games took advantage of it. And I've been improving this by fixing the mixer. The previous versions had sound that would warble around and change volume unexpectedly. That's been fixed by fixing the mixer, because you've got 6 different audio streams in these simulated sound chips that need to be combined. So I got that figured out. Timing for the Mockingboard is now based on the same system as the Cycle Accurate Video. And I've been working through a Mockingboard emulation auditing tool written by a gentleman named Tom Charlesworth, who's got a huge, long, decades of experience working with Mockingboards. This last tool is very detailed, exceptionally so, and I'm still working through that. But I've made a number of fixes and improvements so far, even though I don't pass the tests yet. It's really helped. So here we go. Now we get to see some stuff, not just me talking. A program that shows off both of these big areas of improvement is a demo scene piece from French Touch called Crazy Cycles 2. And here is that demo. You're going to see all of these techniques kind of come together here. Ooh. So this is 2 different high-resolution images, one on each of the page 1 and page 2 video frames inside the Apple II. And they're showing parts of each by very carefully switching the page setting as we go. And of course they're also playing this crazy Mockingboard music in the background while they do it. It's very impressive. This is there's a low-res pattern, low-res graphics, and then they're switching between the high-resolution page and low-res to generate these moving bar effects. The whole time this is going on, you'll see our frame rate and our cycles per second is locked in there tight. And these figures are basically where the electron beam is in the emulator, and you can see that our frames start and end at exactly the same place every time. There's one last little bit of demo here. That's 2 different high-res pages again. Maybe something in the background for that white line. They're not actually drawing anything. They're just changing levels. Thank you, French Touch. These guys are great. Their work is all great. And this is a fun one. It's a very French tune. All right. So another demo like this is the cycle counting Megademo by Deater and friends. And let's fire that up real quick. Deater is sort of another demo scene participant and has done some great stuff. This makes a lot of use of low res and double low res and mixing low res and high res, and so this is in some ways even better than the crazy cycles. It does take 45 seconds. Don't give up on me either. Thank you. Track. Okay. Oh, is it ready? Is it coming? Almost. Soon. Are we there yet? Okay. Tricky. It's not actually a Commodore. I'm not even sure what that. It's a lot. That's like low res, double low res. So this is low res on the left, high res on the right, more low res on the bottom. High res on the left, low res on the bottom. Guy goes out and rides his ostrich. I'm not sure. Maybe Deater can chime in and explain what creature this is. So we've got text at the top, high res in the middle, and low res towards the bottom. And again, this has got all kinds of Mockingboard music going on in the background. I'm not sure what that is. That's really interesting. Not only does he have an ostrich or whatever to ride, but he's got a spaceship. All right. Thanks, Deater. Oh, he was going to kiss the girl, but we'll move along. Now, I've also added support for the Apple Mouse II, which was a mouse for the Apple II. And along with the enhancements to the video display, this lets us play the recently released Shufflepuck game exactly as it would look like on a real Apple II. Shufflepuck, I think, was originally a Mac game, and this Apple II version was made just last 6-8 months, something like that. Now, Shufflepuck takes advantage of the mouse, but it also uses vertical blanking from the mouse card. So it basically is able to trigger an interrupt or to tell software when the electron beam is busy moving from the bottom back up to the top to do another scan. Oh, here, let's make this monochrome. this game was intended for monochrome. And then they can do all their video updates. Without that, things like the even just the mouse cursor here would flicker, and you can see there is no flicker going on here because we've got the mouse generating a vertical blanking signal that the program can use to know when it's safe to draw. Again, just like a real computer. It's even more important in this part of the game where, you know, I've got my whatever this is moving around that I hit the puck with, and then the puck itself. You can see that there is no flicker here. Before I got this working correctly, the flicker was really bad, and you know, there'd be times when the puck would just completely disappear, making it kind of hard to play. Now, the mouse is still a little bit sensitive because they clamp to a very small set of values, and I got to figure out how to kind of automatically adjust sensitivity. Whoa! To make it a little less twitchy. But this is working really well. The author of Shufflepuck complained that most emulators, the game is unplayable for various reasons, and I am hoping that Colin will agree that his game plays wonderfully on my emulator. Yeah. Also, I'm starting to get good at this game. All right. So there you go. Take that, C3PO. Now, I've also improved the way faster speed CPU modes are handled. Apple II, of course, only had 1 megahertz speed. But, you know, they're kind of slow. So we'd like to sometimes run our Apple IIs faster than the real ones were. So what I've done is I've implemented the 1 megahertz speed, of course. That's what we've been showing all through this video. But also a 2.86 megahertz, which I think is the effective clock rate of the Apple II GS natively. And then also a roughly 7.1 megahertz speed. And that figures precisely 7 times faster than the 1 megahertz rate. Now, these values came about because they're divisions of the Apple II's real master clock, which is a 14 megahertz clock. Actually, it's precisely 14.31818 megahertz. That, and then all the other clocks in an Apple II are derived from that by dividing that by various values. So going through and doing all this timing rework, I refactored the code to use this 14M counter. There's actually not a one-to-one correspondence between the CPU clock and the 14M clock. There's long cycles at the end of each scan line. That was another of Woz's little hacks to make all this work with a few chips. So let's show how the speed shifting works. I'm going to use the venerable, no, not that one. This one. Apple Vision demo. This was one of the early kind of sound video demos for Apple II stuff by Bob Bishop. It's loading up. It's going to draw this. Now I'm going to go ahead and speed it up to 2.8 megahertz and to 7 megahertz. And you can see the drawing got real fast. Oops. Let's turn color mode back on. Okay, so this is how it would play at normal Apple II speed. Here's the 2.86 megahertz speed. That's really fast. And then 7. 7 gets a little silly. But you can see, if you're working on, honestly, if you're using like AppleWorks, for word processing or spreadsheets or stuff like that, crank it up to 7 megahertz. Get your job done faster. We all wish we had computers this fast back in the 80s. So, as you can see, shifting back and forth between the speeds, the audio, it's been tricky to get keep the video synced and get the audio synced. I'm using the same kind of concept for these higher speeds as I am for the 1 megahertz. There's a video frame. All the timing is synchronized to the virtual ray gun. Actually, there is one more, which is this. This was one of the very first cycle counting video demonstrations, written by, I think it's Jim Sather, who wrote Understanding the Apple II, the ultimate Bible of Apple II hardware. So this is splitting between low res and high res. Let's see. Low res currently is at the top, high res at the bottom. He's splitting in the middle of the screen. I can hit the space bar to, insert a small delay so it kind of changes where the video modes switch. So again, this is all at 1 megahertz. Now, if I speed up, you'll see I get this effect, and we're rotating a lot faster because the CPU is going at 2.86, but his program is still just counting 17,030 cycles per frame, which is wrong in this case. Now, if I go up one more notch to 7 megahertz, you'll see that it's once again fixed and locked in. The math works out here. And there's 1, 2, 3, 4, there's probably 1 or 2 hidden down below divisions. So between the low res and the high res. But you can see all of the cycle counting stuff here is working, but at 7 megahertz. And if the CPU in the Apple IIe could have just been changed to 7 megahertz without affecting any of the other components of the system, this is what you'd get. So there you go. This opens up, a wealth of, cool demos, and there, even just some regular software would occasionally do tricks like switching between like low res and high res really fast to simulate explosions and flashes and things like that. So the cycle accurate video goes beyond just, these demos. Was it a super widely used technique? No. But what achieving this does tell us is that this emulator is simulating an Apple II at exactly Apple II speed and exactly the same characteristics as an Apple II. So if you want that absolute best, most authentic experience, you got to have this. All right. Well, there you go. That's what I've been up to. I hope you have a good one, and we'll see you in the funny papers.